Ricardo, you're here twice?
Yes, sir, because my audio is not so good with the laptop.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, good. Now, so one of the things about this course, I've taught world religions at JTS many years before, and for a long time I haven't taught the course. I was a world religion specialist and Islam specialist at JTS for many years. And for a long time I haven't taught the course. We have kind of put it off to other persons, and now it has come back to me again this time. And one of the things I found in my experience as a theological student is that when we did what we call cults and world religions, what we usually did was just to look at the beliefs of the people. And then when we met the people and we raised beliefs, sometimes it never got us anywhere in talking with them. Because what we find is that beliefs are static, where people's experiences are dynamic. And you're going to find from church to church, like for instance, anybody here is a Seventh-day Adventist? So Clinton is a Seventh-day Adventist, right? So you're going to find
Was.
He was? Who was?
Clinton was.
So you're going to find, for instance, that the Seventh-day Adventists have an unofficial position on the matter of salvation. Salvation is by faith alone in Jesus Christ. That's the official position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But when you go to some local churches, you find that adherents tell you something different. Adherents tell you it's faith plus you have to obey everything that it teaches. So that's no longer just faith alone. Now, I remember some years ago, there was a controversy put out started by a group that claimed to be with the Seventh-day Adventist Church that wrote something out in the press against Ronnie Thwaites. Okay, because Ronnie Thwaites, as a deacon in the Roman Catholic Church, had become involved in politics. And this group said that this was a move by the papacy to try and merge things to one world government and so on. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church came out with an official statement to distance themselves from that group. That group does not speak for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And, and that reminded me so much that you're going to find that from place to place, religion to religion, it is better, even though we know what people believe or what the fundamentals of the faith, as we ought to know ours, you're going to find that when you interview and talk to people, you find that sometimes their experience is different. And so I thought that one of the things I want you to do is to be aware, since you're still doing something about the theology of the group, which is still looking at their doctrines, but I want you to get an experience more as to why people are a part of the religions that they're a part of, just as how you are a part of a religion. I had a poll set up on Ring Central to use tonight, but now it is dead because I've lost the account for tonight. I'm going to still send out the poll to you, not today or next time, which is talking about the reasons why you associate with the group that you associate with. So Clinton is Seventh-day Adventist. Okay, Ricardo, what are you?
Independent. Excuse me.
What does that mean? What does independent mean?
I'm not New Testament. I'm not Baptist.
So you don't go to a church?
Yeah, but we're independent.
What is the name of your church?
It's Changing Your World Ministry.
Okay. Damian, what about you?
Independent Baptist.
Which one you go to?
Buff Bay. In Buff Bay.
Okay, that's Daniel. What's the name of your pastor?
Pastor Allen.
Allen, I thought. Okay, all right. Glenn Goff, New Testament Church of God. What's your real name?
It's Jerome, sir.
Jerome, you can't just change that for me now.
Yeah, man, I changed it shortly. I was actually setting up an account for Bible studies and then logging on to class at the same time. I'll change it shortly.
Yeah, okay, right.
That's Dr. Works Church, Jerome?
No, Dr. Works is going off Trinity of Prophecy.
Okay.
I was in Glengough last week, Went to look for Dr. Works. Her husband died.
Yes, sir.
What?
Yeah. So I went to look for her last week. And
Her husband died, sir?
Yes, died last week.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right. Okay, friend. So what I want us to do today, I want us to look at some videos. I hope we can get through the videos. They're short videos. And then we are going to look at a PowerPoint presentation, have some discussion. Remember, when the thing goes out, you just rejoin. All right? You know about that, right?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Peace. So let me just go and find the something them and we go. All right, I know where they are. So let me go share a screen again and we get going. All right. My gosh, where is the thing gone? Why am I not seeing it? One second, friends. I'm sorry about that. I'm not seeing my page, which is crazy because it was there a while ago. Okay. Let's go again. Let's try again. Share screen. Okay. Then when you see it come up.
Yes, sir.
It's up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Did we look at this one before? No?
We looked at it last week.
Am I a religiologist?
Okay.
Yes, last week.
We looked at this one last week. Great.
Yeah.
That's better. That's good. I just want to make sure. So let me take this down. Did we look at any more or that was the only one?
That was the only one, I think.
Okay, so the next one is okay. So here, so what is religion is what we're going to look at today, right? If it will just come up, same guy, but we're going to look at what is religion because it's an important consideration. And then we move forward. Let me ask you first before we start sharing. What is religion?
Religion is I would say a group of belief systems.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I was researching it today, and it is a collection of cultural belief system.
Cultural. Interesting. All right. Let's look at this. And then we'll look at our PowerPoint presentation. Let's look at this. Let's go.
Welcome to Religion 101, where we will broadly explore religion, what it is, and how do we go about studying it from an academic perspective. And the first order of business is defining what is religion. The biggest problem with trying to define religion is everybody already thinks they know what it means, but trust me, it's a lot more complicated than that. So what is religion? Sometimes we use the word to define a system of doctrines, or maybe a set of cultural practice shared by a society. And sometimes we use it to refer to a body of myths, or all these things at the same time. But what constitutes a religion? What makes Buddhism a religion, but Aristotle's philosophy not? Why do some people say secular humanism is a religion and other people are like, no, definitely not? By the end of this video, I hope to have convinced you that religion is a subjective term with a very blurry definition and a contested definition depending on who is using the term. Our first piece of evidence is that the term religion has shifted meaning over the course of its history. Our English word religion really has little to do with the Latin term religio, where we get the modern word. Like I talk about in another video, the Latin word religio refers to the socially acceptable cultic duties that people did for the gods, like sacrificing at a state-funded temple. Religio was in opposition to unsanctioned, suspicious rituals and beliefs, which the Romans called superstitio. So for example, Christianity was labeled under superstitio at first because the Romans saw it as the wrong way to relate to the gods. But this Roman definition of religion doesn't match our modern definition of religion, which would encompass both what the Romans thought as superstitio and religio under the same concept. Our category of religion is a modern term strongly shaped by the past 100 years of Western scholarship. It really didn't exist as a category in other cultures, and especially not in ancient Rome. So who are these Western scholars, and what were their definitions for religion? The most minimalist definition comes from the anthropologist E.B. Tylor, who defined religion as belief in supernatural beings. Back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, anthropologists were obsessed with trying to find the primitive religion, the religion out of which all religions evolved. Tylor argued that it was this belief in spirits that was the foundation of all religion, a vague belief in spirits called animism that eventually evolved into polytheism and finally monotheism. Most anthropologists today reject this definition as being too simplistic. The religion evolution theory just doesn't hold up to scrutiny, and not only that, there's a lot more to religion than just believing in supernatural beings. What is more popular today is defining religion as a fundamentally social phenomenon, something that reflects the needs and concerns of society above everything else. Emil Durkheim is probably the most famous champion of this position. He succinctly defines religion as a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden, beliefs and practices which unite into one single moral community called a church, all those who adhere to them. Notice his focus on society, the single unified community that he refers to in his definition. For Durkheim, religion is a form of custom that socializes individuals into a larger community, and which provides an obligation to that individual to live by the society's rules. For Durkheim, religious beliefs and practices lend an aura of ultimate significance to society and the ideology that the society holds as important. Like I said, this perspective of religion is very popular among scholars today, and I myself actually lend a lot of my own thinking to Durkheim. Since religion is so complex, some scholars have given up trying to come up with one unified definition for religion. Instead, they try to argue for a family resemblances definition. Wittgenstein most famously applied this strategy to games. It might not be possible to find a single characteristic that we can apply to all games, but it is possible to identify similarities. For example, there is very little similarity between tic-tac-toe and soccer, but they have family resemblances enough to fall under our category of a game. They both have rules, they both have opponents, they both are used for leisure. The philosopher Robert Audi includes on his list characteristics like belief in supernatural beings, a distinction between sacred and profane, ritual acts focused on these objects, a moral community believed to be sanctioned by divine beings, and etc. According to this strategy, not all of these characteristics need to be present to label something as religion, but if it has 5 or 6 of them, it probably is a religion. Now I know what you're thinking, we're a few minutes into this video and all we've gotten is a bunch of different definitions. What is the one theme, the one unifying concept that will bring all of these definitions together? Ironically, the one unifying theme is all of these definitions are coming from Western scholars from the past 100 years of history. And here's why that's important. Religion as a category may have been invented by modern Western scholars. We really want a 1 or 2 sentence definition of religion, something that we can apply to religion no matter the cultural context or the belief system. But as complex as religion is, that might not be possible. You can probably always find an exception to your definition. It might be more helpful to think of religion as an analytical category of our own design. Jonathan Z. Smith, one of the greatest scholars of religion, and who I call the Gandalf of religious studies, explains it like this: religion is not a native term. It is a term created by scholars for their intellectual purposes and therefore is theirs to define. It is a second-order generic concept that plays the same role in establishing a disciplinary horizon that a concept such as language plays in linguistics or culture plays in anthropology. What J.Z. Smith is arguing is that there is no archetypal definition of religion that we can perfectly apply to any culture. Religion is a subjective analytical term whose meaning depends on the person using it and on the questions they use the term to illuminate. This means that religion is a fundamentally contested concept. And we don't only see this in the world of scholars as they try to define it, but we see this play out in popular culture. We have people arguing, is Scientology a religion? Is Jediism a religion? There is even a famous book that argues Coca-Cola is a religion. Now, for those of you that wanted a nice, tidy definition of religion, I know this might be frustrating. If you want something that's more concrete and more objective, then I would recommend trying the Family Resemblances definition. But for the time being, just be aware that religion is a very subjective concept, and a concept that is very difficult to define. When someone uses the word religion, you can now ask yourself, are they using this term to define belief in God? Are they using it to refer to ritual practice? What perspective are they bringing to the term? You will recognize that different people will use the word to refer to different things. And this will help you navigate discussions about religion, which too often lack the complexity and nuance that they deserve. As always, thanks for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, guys. So, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. So, what did you get from that?
And that there's no, basically there's no definition for religion.
No adequate definition, I would say. Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else you can think that came up? If there's no adequate definition of religion, how are we going to do this course? Clinton, your thoughts?
He mentioned about we mentioned that we can look at it in two ways, whether set of beliefs or practice. What was the next one? Culture.
Yeah, he called it a family resemblance definition.
Family, right.
Okay,
So,
which I find very helpful. Anybody else? Not sure. Well, in this class, we have to find a way to move forward. Okay, and we have already said that we'll be looking at religions from the standpoint of their beliefs. It's a part of what is required for us in this course. But as I also said earlier, that I don't think that that is sufficient. And so I want us to find other ways of looking at it to examine why people do join the groups that they do. I told you last week about my aunt who became a Jehovah's Witness. And telling her that her doctrine is wrong will not be sufficient when speaking to her. It has never been sufficient. Okay? What that does is that it creates more animosity. And if indeed she could benefit from learning what I believe to be the truth, she's hardly likely to benefit from it, from the way I approach her by telling her religion is wrong. So in my experience with her, I've spent times with her. She lives in the US now, and I've spent times with her a couple of times. And my approach has been to immerse myself in her religious practice as best as I can. So I said to her, could I come to your study with you? And she's surprised that I would do that. Or, I said, and I asked her questions about her faith. Ask her why it is that she became a witness, and she told me why. And so she no longer sees me as the typical Christian who's coming to correct her, but she sees me as her nephew, whom she dearly loves. Okay, and from time to time, I can say to her, this is why I don't believe that. Okay, and so but she no longer sees me as a threat. Okay, which I think the threat kind of approach is very counterproductive. Okay, but one of the things that we need to ask ourselves before we start to talk to people about why they are the way they are is, why are we the way we are? Why are you a Christian? Why are you a Seventh-day Adventist or a New Testament Church of God or a World Outreach, whatever it is, Ricardo? What name?
Changing your world ministry.
Changing Your World Ministry. I don't even know where Chicona Avenue is. Chincona.
It's in Pembroke Hall.
Yes, we barely know where Pembroke are. Anyway, joke about it. You know, and who are the Damien, what church are you from?
Independent Baptist.
Oh, you told me Independent Baptist. Why are you any of you involved in the churches that you're involved in? I go to Swallowview Chapel. That's I'm come from a tradition that's called Christian Brethren.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But why are we where we are? And I'm going to tell you this. You're not going to believe it. I'm going to tell you this. You are there not because of the doctrine. That's not why you're at the church. Let me correct that. I would say 95% of people who are a part of a religious group are not there because of the doctrine. They say that they believe the doctrine, they have come to accept the doctrine to be true, but that's not why they remain. You know why they remain? Tell me some of the reasons why they are there.
Your family goes there.
Your family goes there.
Friends.
Your friends there.
They like the praise and worship.
They like the praise and worship.
The pastor.
The pastor preach nice.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Sure, most persons don't have a clue what you mean doctrine. You ask them about doctrine, them think you speak Spanish.
That is true, because doctrine is dead in today's world.
They don't have a clue what that is.
Yeah,
that's the boring part of the service.
Yeah. I'm being told that my time is run out. I have 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes time, we're saying a log back in, right? And we end at 7. We have to end at 7 because I have an hour meeting at 7. I apologize for that. It will happen again for 2 more weeks. But I have to end at 7. Okay, but I'll send the thing say you continue to do your work. Yeah. So you have to think about it, you know. Why are you the way you are? And I have seen where people leave their churches, leave their denominations, leave their religions for interesting reasons too.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even know what the church they're attending believe.
They don't even know.
They ask them, what is the belief of the church? Don't have a clue. They just like the praise and worship.
Of course. And I find that people just leave church, you know, because probably they have a you know, an issue with somebody or something that caused them to move on to another area.
Well, I have left a church, but I remain in a denomination. Okay, I left a church because I was protesting and I left. And I'm very close to the people in the church still. I've left there 23 years ago. And I'm still very close to them. But I left out of protest.
That's donkey years, man.
Yeah. I left out of protest. They were doing something which I told them I disapproved of. And they were not going to change their ways. What we're doing was ostracizing young people. And I told them that they cannot continue this way, and this happens all the time. And I'm leaving. And they said, what would you leaving do? That's apart from giving me peace of mind that I'm not a part of this practice. Okay? People will ask you, why did David Pearson leave? Because I was very involved in close to top leadership. I wasn't the top leader, but I was involved at the time, very close to top leadership. I said, they will ask, why did David Pearson leave? And when they come and ask me why you leave, I'll tell them, go and ask the leaders. Because I'm not in the business of dividing the church, but I was putting a lot of pressure on them to change. And I left, and I actually sought going to another denomination. I started thinking of going to, not because of the denomination, but because of the pastor, Sam Vassell, Reverend Sam Vassell. I was thinking of going to his church. But the tradition was so different. When I say different, that means totally. apart from the doctrines being different, the tradition was so different, you know, that was a problem. And then, as Providence would have it, my wife and I hosted a young couple from the States. They were here for 3 weeks, I think, on an immersion mission. A couple of weeks away for an immersion mission. Came with a school from the States. And they need that church to go to. And we decided I wouldn't take them to my church because of what was happening. And I chose, someone says, take them to Swarfield Chapel, which happened to be brethren, Christian brethren, which is very different from the traditional Christian brethren. There's nothing brethren about Swarfield Chapel today, but they are still considered to be Christian brethren. And I took them to Swarfield Chapel, and I was just blown away by the church. Okay? And the leaders, how progressive they were in terms of thinking and so on. And I've never left there since. I continued to go to my church for another year while visiting Swarfield. And then my wife and I took the decision. I continued to go off and on and off for a year. And then took the decision to change fellowship. Okay? But so it's not doctrine, so to speak, that made me change. And what is other kinds of things that happen. Anyway, I want to start looking at a PowerPoint which draws on what we were just talking about, the video was talking about. When I look at some things, and then, you know, we will, by the end of it, we should come towards the end of tonight's class. So I'm sharing screen again. And you're seeing this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know why that gone so fast. I didn't put it back there. So, okay. So we're looking at what is religion, and let's move forward. And this is what you saw. Some of this you saw in the video. That religion, the term is a young concept, and it's very debatable. Even how we study religion is debatable. Whether we do theology of religion or whether sociology or psychology. I think we spoke about that last week. But what this video spoke about was a family resemblances definition of religion, which attempts to look at various phenomena and group them according to shared characteristics. So you saw him, when you put up some of them there, you can look at beliefs, you can look at, you know, practices, whatever it is. Okay? So we can, this is a way for us to move forward without being overly bogged down in the debate. You know, we're looking at some of the similarities that these groups share and some of the differences, and perhaps even look at the experiences of people who are involved. So, as I mentioned, even the characteristics that we're looking at are debatable. So these are some of the things that they said. One, religion is a set of doctrines. Okay? Now look at it, look at what the doctrines usually do. Whatever religion you go to, you're going to see the doctrines usually talk about the human problem. Why is mankind so messed up? Every religion talks about the mess that we are in as a people. But it also offers a cure. And thirdly, it tells us how to apply the cure. Okay? What we must do to make the cure a part of our experience. Christianity says you must accept Jesus, you must be baptized, you know, things like that. And Islam says you must repeat the Shahada and things like that. Okay? But they also talk about the people that we follow, people that we get our teachings from, our saviors, the founders, the best guides to follow, and so on. Christianity, Jesus is not the founder of Christianity. I hope you understand that. He's not the founder of Christianity. However, he is a central figure of Christianity. And the emphasis on doctrine and its application to daily living. So when we look at that, we want to see how these doctrines give people a sense of obligations to how they should live. But secondly, we can say the religion is a community of people, and the focus is the people, not so much on the beliefs, okay? But we are looking at the fact that religion is a human organization that provides,
Sorry.
yes.
You said Jesus is not the founder of religion. That's
of
what
Christianity,
you said.
Of Christianity.
Of course. Oh, okay. But I learned something different last night.
What you learned?
Clinton, you have to help me. Wasn't it that we were told that Jesus is the, let me look in my book. Jesus is the founder.
No. Correct. He's correct. Jesus is the founder of the church.
Of the church?
No, but not Christianity.
Okay, thanks. All right, thanks.
Peace, thank you. So religion is seen as a human organization that provides a system of general compensators. Compensator meaning the fact that we have problems in life deficits, like how do we make sense of evil, suffering, death, and so on. And what religion does is to provide these answers, based on supernatural assumptions. That's from Stark and Bembridge, two scholars who have written on this. So they talk about the fact that most religions, almost all religions, will talk about how we deal with these problems in life. And it's usually related to supernatural assumptions. One exception to this would be some aspects of Buddhism, because Buddhism is an atheistic religion. Traditional Buddhism is an atheistic religion, means it doesn't have a God. Okay? It's a very human religion. Okay? So when we look at this community as people, we look at how okay, we have about 15 minutes. So you're seeing that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually showing better than before.
Okay, I'm glad to hear. So we're talking about this definition of religion talks about how religion can answer those tough questions we have in life. Okay? And how that allows people to shape their lives. So for instance, you might see someone, like you might see a Roman Catholic praying the rosary, a devout Catholic praying the rosary. And it's not merely a belief for the Catholic, of course a belief, but it's a way of living to make sense of the difficulties that a person might be facing. Okay? So I hope you see distinction. If you focus merely on the belief, then you are going to miss what's happening. Okay? In this definition, then, what you usually find is that we don't even consider belief so much. The content of the belief is not as important as how the belief impacts on a person's life. What does it make them do or not do? All right? Okay. No, it's not moving for all three. Now, another way of looking at it is religion as a historical phenomenon. Basically, and this PowerPoint will be on the site. If it's there already, as a matter of fact, you can look at it. Basically, what we're looking at is religion as a religions as historical movements. So you look at Islam, for instance. Islam grew up as a political movement at a particular time. And you see how it developed historically. It spread across from its inception in Mecca, how it spread across the Middle East and into Europe. Okay, so you look at the history behind the event. I mean, behind the spread. How it brought people together. And then you're going to look at things like the leadership of the religion, and then maybe rituals and rules and the experience of adherence. But the focus here is on history in this way forward. Understand that? No response means that you understand, hopefully.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Right. Now, Another way is to look at in the same idea of the family concept, family resemblance concepts, right? Is to look as what Ninian Smart says. Ninian Smart is one of the very well-known scholars in religion. Ninian Smart says we can look at religion based on these 7 points. The doctrinal and philosophical, that's the basic teachings. The mythical and the narrative, that is how the religions have these life-guiding stories that help people to move forward. The ethical and the legal, the laws which determine right and wrong, okay, in the religion. So for instance, if you're in Judaism, you need to look at the 10 Commandments and the Torah and things like that. The ritual and the practical, prayer, almsgiving, care for others, and so on. Again, when we look at Islam, you're going to see that the 5 pillars of Islam are very big on this. Okay? The experiential and emotional, how the religion impacts on people. The social and organizational, how it is what we call the polity of the religion. And this is a big issue in some of the churches, Christian churches, that have separated from each other. The only difference is how they are organized. Okay? Like New Testament Church of God and the Church of God of Prophecy. All right? It's only organizational difference. There's nothing different between them. One doctrinal difference: in years gone by, the Church of God of Prophecy believed that it was the only true church. But they have dropped that now. And so they're exactly like New Testament Church of God, except for organization. And number 7 is what many people find very interesting: the material and the artistic. And so if you're an artist, there are some art scholars who study religious art. Okay? It's very fascinating when you look at these kinds of things. Like, for instance, the Michelangelo's painting on the Sistine Chapel, that's a religious painting. Or a sculpture of David. All that is religious art. Okay? So this is what we were doing in this class. In this class, we want to affirm that the theological study of religion is indeed legitimate. Okay? And in the study, in the video last week, we spoke about this as one approach, what we call a theological study. We're looking at beliefs and so on, right? It is legitimate, and it is a legitimate way forward, especially in classes like this one, in a Bible school or a seminary. Okay? So we are going to take a theological slant in our study. Okay? But we are not using that alone. Okay? We are going to use that theological stance as we look at Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, maybe Buddhism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and I put etc. You might have a group or two. Rastafarianism, of course, Rastafari, really. There's no Rastafarianism. That's an offensive term. It's Rastafari. Okay? And you might have a group or two you want us to look at. We'll talk about that. And then we are coming from the standpoint of the basic teachings of Christianity, from which we will make our comparisons. And by the basic teachings, I'm talking about things like the Godhead, the person and work of Jesus Christ, salvation, the Bible, human responsibility, and so on. But we want to leave room for the exploration of the experiences of religious adherence. Why, as I said, why are people involved in the groups that they are a part of? So let me hear your questions or your comments now.
So to the question you just asked? Why are they a part of the groups?
Not hearing you, not hearing you.
To the question you just asked, why are they a part of the groups that they are a part of?
Right.
Well, as we said earlier, there are various reasons.
Right.
Sometimes it's simply because of the way the pastor preach,
Right.
or the social outreach of the church.
Right. Which is a very powerful thing.
I mean, that has attracted a lot of persons, the social gospel. And as well, you look at also the way the church makes people feel. If you look at it from sociology, many times you go to church, and a particular church you feel good, so you want to be a part of that organization because it motivates you. Maybe if I was living in Houston, Texas, I would probably go to Joel Osteen Church every week because certainly he gives you a good feel.
But then so it's different. If I lived in Houston, Texas, I definitely would not go to Joel Osteen's church. Because to me, that's not a church. To me, a church has some fundamental things that it ought to do. And a part of the fundamental things to preach the gospel, preach the Bible.
Yes.
And so I perhaps would go to Tony Evans' church if I lived in Dallas, Texas. Okay. There are other churches I might go to. But as you said, it's all a very subjective thing as to why people go in many senses.
Yes.
Right. But this is why it's important that when we do our interviews with the people, that we get a feel for them for what they are doing. Then you might start to think differently of them. All right? You might start to think differently of them. You might also start to think differently of your own church in the sense of not necessarily your church's doctrine, maybe, but I would hope that you gain insight into how you can do ministry better. Okay? Because it's a very, very important thing as we move forward. Do you guys have any concerns as we move forward? Is there a group you'd want us to look at as we look at cults of Christianity? I've put Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, probably Christian Science.
Rastafari, right?
No, that's
I have Rastafari too. Right, I put Rastafari. Yeah.
Probably Scientology.
Or Scientology. Okay, Scientology or Christian Science. Yes, okay, good.
Did you say the Mormons?
Yes, I did.
What about that new group? That Universal Church of the what?
We can put, I didn't have them, but we can click on them. I've been doing some research on them, and every research I've looked at says that they are an evangelical church.
Oh, wow, interesting.
But they are
very interesting.
Very big on the prosperity message.
Yes.
But we can look at them. We can look at them and do an official investigation of them. Anything else? Yes.
So it's disappointing to learn that people actually don't go to church for doctrinal purposes.
Well, that's not. They may not have started that way.
Yeah.
Okay. They may not have, even though some people are that way. Like for instance, Papa San. Papa San is one of the very few persons I know who did his investigation first. Okay. He tried to, he said there was an emptiness in his life, and he did an investigation of different religions. And then he thought that Christianity was the best religion. He thought, for whatever reason, I'm not certain why he thought it was the best religion. And then he started to look at churches. And then he went to Church on the Rock. And from Church on the Rock, I think he said they discipled him, and then they released him to go on his own. So he was a kind of a deliberate act on his part, which is not usual. Not usual. Not usual at all. Any other thing you want to talk about? We have 3 minutes left for tonight.
Will the impact of phobia on religion be discussed? I find that you know, in very many sermons, especially those who are evangelists, they tend to hit firmly on, you know, the grounds where phobia is concerned, whether it is in the church or otherwise.
So one of the things that we could look at is revivalism.
Revivalism, right?
Okay, as a religious phenomena, which mingles with Christianity, and so it brings in the practices of Mayal and Obia into the church.
Well,
Okay.
it depends on which of them. Oh, revivalism. Okay,
Right.
because there's 2 groups.
Right.
Okay.
Because if it's 60 or 61.
Him sound like a revivalist talking to us here now.
No, I'm not. But
Easy.
I mean,
We are teasing, man. Don't worry about it, man.
I'm in touch with what's happening, you know. So if it's 60, it's Christianity straight. But it's 61, then mix up.
They mix up, right? So we can. So we have to look at some Caribbean expressions of these things. It's not just, you know, we have to look at Caribbean expressions as we move forward. Okay. How do you feel about the assignment of interviewing somebody and talking to them?
That's good. I can do that.
Yeah. Probably I was thinking about, you know, the impact of the times, but I'm assuming that based on the technology.
Very inappropriate.
Right. Well, guess what? One of the things you can do for me, I will say, so there's a closer meeting. You guys can tell me by next week what groups you want to personally do.
Yeah.
Okay? In your personal paper, that is personal presentation. So by next week, you tell me, please try to collaborate and not choose the same things. All right? That we can benefit from each other. And by next week, you let me know. All right, guys?
Okay.
I will post the 2 videos from tonight on the page that you can see them. All right?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
Peace and love. Next week, I'll send a new link to you next week. All right?
Yes, sir.
For next
I'm
week.
sure.
Peace.
Could you forward the course outline to us?
I can forward to you, but it's on the focus page. What happened?
I'm not seeing it on it.
You're not looking good. That's why.
All right, I'm gonna look again.
All right.
Yeah, man.
All right. Don't come out of the class. Damien, let me show you.
Okay.
So I must end the meeting then.
No, sir, you can go and I'll just show him how to do it.
Okay. No, but tell me, I have to leave it. Tell me I can't minimize Zoom. I have to go to the next meeting somewhere.
Oh, you have to go. All right.
You can send it to him in the WhatsApp group. Send him to him in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Oh, sir, I have to use the same link. Oh, you have to use this link, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Peace and love, man.
All right. Thanks.